What's up, everybody? Welcome into episode number 6 of the Bat Flip. I'm your host for tonight, Dillon Taylor. One short tonight. We're short Landon Raby, our fearless leader, as always. Down in the heart of the burnt orange country, down in Texas. Say a prayer for him. You know he's out there in behind enemy lines. Not a great place to be. But work trip calls. So you've got me flying solo tonight. Same as always, though. We've got to recap the Vandy series. Um, no tough series for the boys, but we'll get into it a little bit later too. You got the midweek game over Tennessee Tech, and then you've got the preview this week. You know you're traveling down to a College Station. You're facing a Texas A&M team that has really struggled so far, 22-17 on the year so far, only 4-11 in the SEC. So it's a game, it's a series you hope you're going to be able to pull out, but we'll get into it. I want to shout out our sponsors, Blue Water Climate Control, first off. But after that, I guess we'll go ahead and get into it. I think we talked about it last time. This Vanderbilt series, it was always going to be one that you don't want to say was going to be tough to win. I mean, even though it's true, you want to think you have the better team here. But it's tough against a traditional powerhouse like Vanderbilt is. I mean, you think Vandy, as Tennessee fans as we do, you if you're like me, you think automatically the little brother thinks they're somewhere that they don't belong. But in baseball, I mean, they're the golden standard, and they have been for the last few years now. I mean, it's tough to say, but honestly, it's the truth. I mean, until they get knocked off, they're going to remain there too. But you had the big series this weekend in Knoxville. Um, you lost the series 2-1. Um, kind of tough, but you're facing good pitching first off. You've got Kumar Rocker first, and you've got Jack Leiter on that Saturday game. After that, I mean, Sunday's kind of the game you hope you would have snagged, especially coming in and tied 1-1 in the series after the loss, then the win. You kind of hope Sunday after the performance we saw on Saturday that would be kind of the wrap up there. If you're like me personally, I mean, I think Sunday, before the series started, Sunday was going to be your best chance at a W. Just because, like I said, Kumar Rocker coming into that start, I believe it was 8-0 on the year, 8-1, 7-1. I think it was 7-1 coming into that, and he dominated. I mean, Kumar Rocker, he's going to be I'd say top 5 pick easily, probably a top 3 pick, just depending on what the team needs are there. And I mean, he showed why. I mean, you saw it last year, and in the no hitter he tossed, and really any start he went out there last year, and he continued it against us. I mean, it's one thing to lose a game to a rival, but I don't know which way I think on it. I mean, it's tough to kind of get shut down like that, but I mean, at the end of the day, you kind of got to tip your cap to a guy like Kumar Rocker, and I mean, you can't take too much shame in it because he does it to just about everybody he faces. Really, I mean, he had a difficult start against Georgia, came up a little short, gave up a few big flies, but I mean, he did what got him to Vanderbilt. I'll put it that way. Like that's the kind of players Vandy attracts, and they showed why right there. I mean, that's what he does. Saturday going in, I mean, I was at the game Saturday. You got Jack Leiter for Vandy. Um, had Will Heflin on the mound starting for us. Kind of. It's like I said before, kind of going in, like it kind of gives you an uneasy feeling. I mean, Leiter hasn't lost the game all year. Another guy that's projected top 5 of the draft. Probably top 3 as well. I mean, you've heard rumors of Rocker and Leiter going 1-2, 2-1, depending on which way. But I mean, you come into that game a little bit nervous, especially after dropping the first one. But Will Heflin, I mean, shout out Will Heflin, the senior lefty. I mean, he doesn't have the stuff that's going to blow away anybody, but for sure, absolutely, he put in a solid start. I mean, I think he went a little bit longer than you'd probably like him to go. He's a guy that you hope you can get 5, maybe 6 innings out of him, hand it over to your bullpen, and hope that you've got a shot to win it. I think before the year, that Saturday game is really a spot that Depending on how you set it up, it would either been Jackson Leith or Tidwell, Blade Tidwell. Uh, Interchange them Saturday, Sunday, whichever way Vitello likes it better. But with Jackson Leith out for the season now, that Will Heaven's really stepped up in that role, in my opinion. I mean, he's like I said, he doesn't have anything that's going to blow you away, but he's consistent. He kept him off balance most of the game, with the exception of a couple big flies. But I mean, that's a team like Vanderbilt. I mean, they're number 2 in the country. We've mentioned their pitching. We've mentioned it the last couple minutes, but their lineup. I mean, it's not any slouches there. You've got Keegan at first base. I mean, he's going to be a top 10 pick. Talent throughout, really. You saw they've got speed, they've got power, they can hit for contact, they do the little things right. They're just they showed why in this series that they belong in the top 5, and I think Tennessee did too to an extent. But that's just a quick recap there. I mean, you lost the Sunday game, you held around for a little while there, but um, kind of started making solid contact. Vandy did there at the end, a 10-4 loss there. But you had that as a recap, just overall. I will say that some of the guys that impressed me this series, it was Chad Dallas starting off. I mean, you look at that game, yeah, you lost 5-0, but Dallas kept you in that game until the end. He just didn't get looked like watching the New York Mets out there. Honestly, he looked like Jacob DeGrom to an extent where he gets no run support at all, just kind of left out to dry there. But just a tough game. I mean, we mentioned Rocker was on that night. He was shoving. I mean, it's what he does. Said Vandy's crazy loaded. The Vols did a good job against them. You can't expect to beat them. I mean, yeah, that's a good comment there. I mean, yeah, they are crazy loaded. You got that part definitely right. Um, yeah, we did do a good job. Um, I'd kind of disagree. I mean, you can't expect to beat them, no, but a battle of top 5 teams, you want to have the hope that it can go either way, and especially the way, I mean, you look at the Vols now, 30-8 on the year. Um, it's a series that, yeah, you're kind of right. You go in wanting to beat them. You've got to see if you can or not. Obviously, the Vols were able to snag one there, but I mean, yeah, it's you kind of get into it more. Some guys that stood out to me this series, like I said, I mentioned Chad Dallas there on the mound starting off. Um, in that first game, it's hard to pick anybody that really stood out offensively with 0 runs. I mean, that's expected, but you go to the obvious pick here. I mean, keeping with the same format as we've had this show, the guy that really clicked on offense for us was Evan Russell. I mean, named the Golden Spikes Player of the Week for what he did this weekend, especially in that Saturday game. You know, he had 6 total RBIs on the weekend. His first home run was I think the announcer, I think it was Chris Burke, said, I mean, I was at the game, but watching the highlights after it, it was really the first ball that Jack Leiter has had that's really been squared up on him this year. I mean, the first one Evan Russell had was an absolute bomb. You had him and Pav going back to back there. Good to see Pav get a shot like that. I think he's been due for an at bat like that, and I think he's going to pick it up, especially here lately. But I mean, you had Evan Russell that I saw the quote before the year that, or early in the year, that he's never going to be the biggest guy, the strongest guy, fastest guy. Wasn't the highly rated guy like we've seen with the stories coming up about him still being technically a walk on. Now that has something to do with the college baseball scholarship numbers, but yeah, I mean, you've got a guy like that that's still technically a walk on. That I mean, he beat Vandy for you. I think you had awesome pitching as well from Heflin, like I mentioned. Then out of the bullpen, you had Honley, and I mean, it was. I don't know. It was a good game. It's a good game. You always want to. I mean, they've talked about. You always want to see something like that because that's one of the best Tennessee athletic events that I've been to personally. Maybe the best one with the way our football team's been here lately. But I mean, Evan Russell, I when you look back at Tennessee moments throughout the last few years of stepping up in the moment like that, I don't know that I've remember a bigger one with a grand slam like that to give you the lead. Um, I mean, he just made it nerves of steel, man. That's all I can say. The grand slam, when he initially hit it, I didn't know that it would get out or not. A guy steps to the plate like that with 2 home runs, then you've got bases loaded, tight spot late in the game, and you're looking like, what if he hit the grand slam? What if it gave us the lead? And when he initially hit it, I thought it was going to be a little bit short, but it was going to drive in the sac fly regardless. So you were going to have a tied game. But yeah, I think Vitello mentioned it. It was like the fans really just kind of gave it the extra boost to get out, and I don't think he was wrong. I mean, you look at the comments. What should the Vols change to beat Vandy if we meet in the postseason? That's a good question. I mean, I don't know that there's really anything you can change. I know we've mentioned on the show before. You got to have more timely hitting. It's kind of, if you're nitpicking, it's kind of been one of the things that's plagued the Vols this year. Um, but when you're going up against good pitching, I mean that's tough too. I would probably say that's the main thing. Um, I think the bullpen's got to perform a little bit better. I think they did well Saturday, Sunday, or excuse me, Friday. They never really had a chance to there. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question. What should they change to beat Vandy? I would probably say runners left on base. I mean, that's something you've got to do in the SEC, and had a few errors too. I mean, I know one of them I think was Steenstra. He's not your everyday shortstop, even though he has been playing there for a while. With Liam Spence, obviously they've been hitting him more out of the DH role, not really letting him field as much. And early in the year, I mean, I don't blame him. But yeah, you can't have errors like that give a team like Vanderbilt just extra opportunities. Because if you do, I mean that's rough. That's rough. A good team. I think that's the main thing I took away from this series. Tennessee is a very good team. Vanderbilt's a great team. Like they are. Now, does that does that mean me by saying that Tennessee, if they lined up for another 3 game series right now, wouldn't get the dub? Absolutely. Anytime Tennessee could play the Yankees tomorrow, and I believe in a 3 game series we're going to step away with a win. That's just me. That's the orange blood running through me there. But I mean, you in baseball there are just small differences like that go from very good to great, and a team like Vanderbilt, as I mentioned, you can't give them extra opportunities. You boot a ground ball, a slightly wide throw pulls the first baseman off, stuff like that. It seems small, but a team like Vanderbilt can just, first they're going to capitalize off it. Second, after they capitalize, they're going to make you bleed from it. They're going to get everything they can, and what turned out to be a soft grounder to short pulls the first baseman off that turns into a single can turn into a 4 or 5 run inning against a team like Vanderbilt. And that's what's made them this good. That's why they've been a top 5 team since college baseball has really started to pick up traction these last couple of years. I mean that's all I've got on the Vanderbilt series, though. I mean, electric Saturday game, fun to be a part of. If you haven't got out to Lindsey Nelson yet, you should. They've got a great team this year. But that's all I've got. I mean, Vanderbilt beat you this series like they did. This first series, Tennessee's lost all year. The only other one that they even split was Indiana State earlier in the year. I mean, they won their first 4 SEC series. Um, you had to lose one eventually. College baseball, you're not going to go undefeated. So I'd rather lose a series to the best team in the SEC than something early in the year that's a lower tier SEC team, like a Texas A&M that we're about to get into. If you're going to lose one, go down in a dogfight to the best team in the league. I mean, up there with Arkansas, obviously. But you had the midweek game, Tuesday night, Vols against Tennessee Tech. I mean, to me personally, I'm never going to take too much out of these games just because one half your starters aren't going to be playing. If you're a team like Tennessee, you're really going to look to get your bench more involved in the game. Um, pitching as well. It's normally going to be a by committee approach. You're going to look for the whole staff your whole bullpen to get some work there, and they did. So it's never these midweek games are never ones you want to lose, just because normally you are playing an inferior opponent. No disrespect to Tennessee Tech, but I mean that's just the reality of it. The Vols bats were a little quiet. That kind of concerned me. But for everybody coming in a by committee pitching approach like that, I think they did a solid job. You escaped with the win 3-2. You had Max Ferguson um, with a walk off single to win it. Thought it was going to get overturned. Thought they were going to call Jordan Beck out of the baseline there, which I would have lost my mind over. But you got the celebration. They went back and reviewed it, so you got another celebration. So why not? Hey, let Drew Gilbert chase Max Ferguson with a water bottle all throughout the outfield. Any win like that's going to be a good one, especially in a midweek series. You're getting guys resting. You're still able to pull out a win. So, I mean, like I said, those games you're never going to take too much out of it, or I'm not especially. Just good to get a win. Look back at the comments. Need luck and perfect pitching to have a shot against Vandy. Yeah, you do. Yeah, Rocker's a top 3 pick in the draft and near unhittable. Yeah, I mean Georgia's really the only team that. I mean Georgia's not having just an outstanding year, but maybe it was Rocker was off a little bit that day, or Georgia just they roughed him up a little bit. But yeah, I mean him and Leiter until the last couple weeks. I mean they've really headlined all of college baseball, especially the SEC. If it wasn't for Arkansas. Tennessee's not Arkansas or Mississippi State loaded with high-end pitching. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. That kind of goes back to me, the Jackson Leaf injury. I think if Jackson Lee's still healthy, then yeah, I would disagree there. But yeah, in terms of depth of high-end pitching, I agree with you. I think that our 2 starters in Dallas, Tidwell, I'd be comfortable putting them up there, especially for Tidwell being a freshman. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think there's still. I don't disagree. I think there's still a gap between Vandy and everybody else, Arkansas, everybody else. I think we mentioned it. We did kind of a tier rankings last week on the show, but I think I would have to put Vandy and Arkansas. I mean, I think head and shoulders they've been the two best teams this year in the SEC. I'd put them just a little bit above everybody else, like the Tennessees, the Mississippi States. You thought coming into the year, Florida. But yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I don't think anything you said there was really crazy. I think that's. I mean, everybody knows what Vandy's where they make their bread at. I mean, it's been college baseball. Now you've got this week, as we mentioned, you're going in to College Station. You're facing Texas A&M. I mean it. You never want to say you hope you get a sweep, but I hope we do. I mean, Texas A&M has not looked great this year. You do have to go on the road, but I mean the Vols are 9-3 so far this year on the road. College or Texas A&M, 22-17, only 4-11 in the SEC. They're near the bottom in the West rankings of the SEC West. I mean they played Arkansas this last weekend. Arkansas, they looked like Arkansas. I mean they definitely had their way with Texas A&M. I believe it was the Saturday game. I could be wrong. There was it's a pretty high scoring affair there. But I mean, Arkansas's offense, I think, is probably the best in the country. I'd put them above Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt has the better pitching. But yeah, A&M can be a little bit dangerous. I mean, it's any SEC team. Any SEC team like that, any weekend one team's got the chance to beat the other one. But this is a series for the Vols. You hope they can get the win. I think they will. I think the mentality that Vitello's had all year. I don't think he's going to let this team come in and kind of sleepwalk against a team like A&M, which I don't think they will with it being a road series. First off, that kind of gets you in the mindset that you're away from home, you're in enemy territory. You've got to perform. You've got Dallas going again Friday night. I expect him to do what he's done all year. I really what I'm looking forward to in this series though is seeing Tidwell, Blade Tidwell, the freshman, our Sunday starter. The last couple of outings hasn't he hasn't been bad by any stretch, but he's been a little bit off from what we saw earlier in the year. Now, part of that is he's been facing better competition, obviously. But I'd really like to see him Sunday just come out and really shut the Aggies down, and I think he's definitely capable of it. If you've watched him pitch all year, he's got the talent to do it. But yeah, this weekend I just looking to see the Vols get back on track. I'm not going to get into it too much. But yeah, I expect a 2-1 win. Yeah, you said A&M is dangerous, but win the series 2-1 on the road and you're fine. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm calling for. I think it's going to be a 2-1 win. I think you may see Texas A&M. I wouldn't be surprised with a sweep this weekend. Maybe I've cursed them by saying that, but we'll wrap up there. I mean, episode 6. That's what I'll close on. Episode 6 with just get back to your winning ways. I mean, you're 30-8 on the year. You've proved you're one of the top teams in the SEC. This is your first big challenge of the year, really. And I don't think you underperformed. I don't think you came out late in an egg. I think Vanderbilt did what Vanderbilt does. And if it's a series like that, at least you got a good moment out of it with the Saturday win. That blew up Vol Twitter, college baseball Twitter, really. So I mean, that's what I'll end it on. Just get back to your winning ways. This has been episode 6. Shout out to Blue Water Climate Control again, and we'll see y'all next week. Go Vols.